Welcome to the Plant Trainers Podcast, where we're helping people improve their quality of life through nutrition and fitness. And now, your hosts, nutrition and wellness coaches, international speakers, Adam and Shoshana Chaim.
Hey, I'm Adam Chaim.
And I'm Shoshana Chaim, and we are
Propelled by Plants. Today we bring to you episode 268, From Health Scares to Health Coaches with Dr. Kasey Johnson.
In today's episode of the Plant Trainers Podcast, we're going to be sharing our interview from the Unlock Wellness podcast with Dr. Kasey Johnson when she interviewed us. For those of you who don't know our full story, you could learn about it today. And here's what her show notes had to say from the Unlock Wellness podcast number 133.
Shoshana and Adam Chaim are hosts of the Plant Trainers podcast and are dedicated to transforming as many lives as possible. They both have such inspiring wellness journeys. When Shoshana was pregnant with their second child, Adam discovered that he had a tumor on his kidney and was initially told that he wouldn't make it past 40 years old. This overwhelming situation led Adam and Shoshana to become advocates for their own health and has inspired them to help educate as many people as possible about true health and wellness. They are changing so many lives.
We're excited to share this conversation with you because so many people ask us, what is that story that got you to where you are today? And although we do have that in episode number 3 of the Plant Trainers podcast, this is a new and fresh perspective. So we do hope you enjoy it.
So here's the thing. We all want to do a little bit better. We all want to make better choices, and we all want to have someone to count on to push us just a little bit outside of our comfort zone. But not everyone is willing to hire a coach or find a friend that could help us get us to where we want to go. That's what's great about our Propelled by Plants performance tees and our Training for Life soft cotton t-shirts. They are that reminder that is literally on your shoulder, encouraging you, reminding you, and building your confidence to run a little further, get up a little earlier, or make better choices at meal and snack time. Don't you want a little bit more of that? So head over to planttrainers.com/shop and pick up one or both of those shirts and start walking a little taller or longer or faster. Sizes go quick, so order yours today. And if you have one already, snap a pic and tag us on Instagram or Facebook. And now for a moment of gratitude.
I am grateful for a compliment that I received yesterday while I was on the phone with a potential client. She mentioned that she follows us on the Plant Trainers podcast and on social media. And one of the things that makes her so connected to us is that the way I speak and the way I present myself and the way I actually am is that I am willing to meet people where they are without judgment, but at the same time, make them want to do a little bit better, make them want to do a little bit more, but without that pressure. And for me, that is one of the highest compliments.
I'm grateful for the connections and the networking that we do just by having this podcast and the interviews that we do on other people's podcasts, just like the one we're sharing today. And it's been so amazing getting to know some of these incredible people, and I'm just grateful to have met all of them.
Welcome to the Unlock Wellness podcast. I'm Dr. Kasey and excited for today's guest. I'm here with Shoshana and Adam Chaim. Shoshana and Adam are hosts of the Plant Trainers podcast and are both dedicated to transforming as many lives as possible. They both have an amazing story and just doing so much positive work. So I'm excited to have them both on to share their story with you guys. So Shoshana and Adam, thank you so much for taking time to come on. I'm extremely excited to have you both.
Thank you. We're grateful.
Oh, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah. And, like we were talking before, we're just going to just jump into it. And, I'm excited for you guys both to share your own journeys and then obviously how they, mix together. But whoever really wants to start first, just kind of walk us through what your own wellness journeys look like. And, how that's really impacted your family as a whole and then the work that you're doing right now.
Well, I think it starts way back when we were kids and being raised, and our parents obviously doing the best that they could with the best knowledge that they had. But we ate a lot of processed foods growing up individually, probably me a little bit more than Adam. But, we ate from every food group, including the junk food group. And, life was kind of what it was. But Adam was really into health and fitness. And as I got into my upper teens, I got into playing basketball, working out, watching what I eat more, trying to have muscle and look good. And we always looked really good and fit on the outside as we were in our especially for me, it was more upper teens and 20s. For Adam, it was probably your whole life. You're probably a good size.
Yeah, I was always in shape. I exercised regularly. I went to the gym. I played a lot of team sports. I became a personal trainer and got into teaching health and phys ed. So that was my lifestyle. So I ate as well as I thought I could. I mean, it was pretty much the standard American diet, but the healthiest version of it, of what I thought. Although from time to time, I did go to the fast food restaurants and try to pound back as many of those 99-cent
We would
burgers.
compete with each other from time to time too.
It did happen. I'm not gonna hide that fact.
Well, when you're that active, like you feel like you can, you know what I mean? Like you feel like I worked out really hard. It's okay if I eat what I want because I've just put out a lot of energy.
Yeah. And we were a good size, we were the slimmest of all our friends. Not that we were skinny or twiggy or anything like that, but we were fit. And so it was like, okay, so if every 2 weeks we, go through a drive-through window or stop in there and kind of fill our trays and see what we could pound back, it was like an activity. Right. And so then what happened is we got married, we were doing awesome, everything was great. We had our first child, we were so happy. And then I was pregnant with my second child, and that pregnancy took a big turn emotionally for both of us.
Yeah, that was a rough time. I mean, we're talking about 8 years ago now. And I was watching football and hanging out one afternoon, and I felt this pain running across my chest, which kind of made me worried because I'm not the kind of person that should be feeling that kind of symptom. And I'm not someone who likes to complain or go see doctors, but this was kind of worrisome. And so I did go to the hospital to get checked and had an ultrasound done. And they sent me home saying that I looked fine, everything was okay. And so I blew it off. I chalked it up as maybe a strained muscle because I did a heavy workout the day before. And a couple of weeks later, I got a call from my doctor who said I needed to come in to see him immediately because it was emergency time. And so we went to the doctor, and he basically told us that it looks like I have cancer. It looks like I have a tumor on my kidney, and they need to remove my kidney immediately because it's in a very rare spot. It's a weird looking tumor.
And they couldn't see that initially, or why did it take a few weeks?
So this is Ontario. This is Canada. So in Canada, it's not private medical system. So basically you need to wait for appointments here. So he got the ultrasound, and the ultrasound took a while to get processed, and then they see that there's a tumor, and then they call the doctor until the doctor gets the message. So it took a while for us to get that information and then to get an appointment with the doctor and to be told what was going on. And he had gotten 3 different oncologists for Adam, and basically the first 2 that we saw said, let's just take it out immediately. We don't know what kind of tumor it is. We don't know if it's cancer or if it's not, but chances are people with tumors in this area, it is cancer. So let's just get it out of your body. And that really sent up red flags for the 2 of us. Adam we were both personal trainers at that time, actually. We're both personal trainers. We were both taught, phys ed and health curriculums in schools, but we weren't doctors. We didn't have the nutrition training that we have today. We didn't have as good of an idea of what the medical system is providing. But it really was a red flag. And Adam's like, whoa, I'm not going and cutting my body open and letting them take out, part of my kidney.
Right.
Or all of it.
Or all of it. Because what they found out later is that the tumor was so embedded in the kidney that he would have basically lost the whole entire kidney, which would have left him with one.
That's crazy.
Can we function well with one? Absolutely. But what happens if that other kidney is compromised?
Right.
Then you've got issues.
Did you guys both grow up more not medically, not with that medical background? Because I feel like most people would be really scared, and that would be their number one choice. Yeah, take it out. It seemed like you guys were both kind of on board with let's not do that right away. Let's research it a little bit. Or was that a natural intuition for the both of you guys?
So I never really liked doctors, and all doctors listening, and no offense. I believe that doctors, the doctors
the title.
have a strong purpose, and we need them for a broken arm
Right.
or things that are acute. And I don't like to go to a doctor for the general cold or anything like that. Here, so this was a situation where I, I like to take care of my body, I thought, and I like to know what I'm doing and have a purpose behind it. And here I'm being told by two doctors that I need to remove a body part just in case, you know? And to me, it kind of makes sense to find out if that just in case is really a case where it has to be removed. And so the third oncologist that we went to, he said, let's do a biopsy of the tumor first, find out if it's actually cancerous. And then if it is, we'll deal with it then. And if it's not, we'll figure out how to deal with it another way. And that really resonated. That made more sense to me. Like, let's take it one step at a time and see where we're going with it.
Right. So obviously that's what you went with. And then what did you find from there? And then, how were you guys reacting at that point?
Well, it was, again, it took a little bit of time between taking the biopsy and getting the results.
Or even getting the biopsy in the first place.
Right.
Mm.
So here I am, 2 weeks pregnant, found out that 2 weeks ago that I was pregnant. So we found out that he had the tumor. And then they're telling us that, it could be likely that Adam is not around for the birth.
Well, they didn't say that right away, but you're jumping ahead.
Right.
Still, yeah, that's
Yeah.
So so hearing your husband has a tumor is bad enough for anybody. When you've got a 1.5-year-old at home or a 1-year-old at home, and you have another one on the way, your emotions, you know what it's like to be pregnant. Your emotions are already out of whack. So it was extremely, extremely stressful for all of us.
It was a very emotional time. It was a bit of a roller coaster ride, I would say. So we had to wait a few months until we got the biopsy results, which was an interesting phone call because the doctor then said, I have great news for you. You don't have cancer. It's a benign tumor. However, it's such a rare tumor in a rare location that it's very possible that it's linked to this very rare genetic disorder called VHL. And that was pretty much all he said. And then we were like, well, what's VHL?
He's like, don't Google it.
Don't Google it. So what the first thing you do is you go and do your research. So VHL is von Hippel-Lindau disease. And what it generally does is it deposits tumors along your central nervous system. And over the years, they found that most people don't survive past the age of 40 if they have this genetic disorder.
Mm.
So
you had the gene, but did you have to do testing to see if you actually had it?
Yeah, I did eventually, but I needed to know right away. I needed to find out if I had this. And so we ended up going to an ophthalmologist who did a retinal exam and was able to determine if we had it without doing the blood tests.
Because they were able to look through the eyes into the back of the head to see if there were already tumors forming in the brain.
Yeah. And so she said, it doesn't look like you have that disorder. You should still go for all the blood tests and so on, which was a huge relief. But then she says, it looks like you have the beginning stages of heart disease. Your arteries are narrowing and they're faded. And this is not a good place to be as a 36-year-old, right? And it was shocking to me. So I'm going from one stone to another. It's kind of a very emotional time, and I didn't know what to do. You're telling me now I have heart disease. I got to deal with this, and I don't know how. I don't want medication because I'm not the kind of person that takes it. So I started to do some research. And that's when I came across the documentaries like Forks Over Knives and the China Study and all the plant-based nutrition and Dr. Esselstyn. And then I came across Brendan Brazier, the triathlete champion who was a plant-based athlete. And I'm like, well, that's cool. And everything he says makes perfect sense to me lifestyle-wise. And from the documentary and the China Study, I'm learning that a plant-based diet can maybe even reverse heart disease from Dr. Esselstyn's work. Mm-hmm. Maybe this is the right thing for me. And so I turned to Shush I think it was a Thursday night, and I said, tomorrow morning I'm plant-based. Done.
That's awesome. I mean, that's cool that you were able to make that switch so quick. But I mean, at the same time, you've been through, I mean, both of you guys have been through so much in such a short amount of time. So I'm sure that, I mean, at that point, when you think that there's a chance that you're not going to make it past 40, it's like, you'll do anything at that point, right?
Yeah, but except for take out a part of my body unnecessarily. And I didn't want to go on medication. And so maybe most people would say, yeah, you know what, if you're telling me I'm not going to survive another 3 years, I'm going to do these drastic things. But for some reason, I was pushed into a different direction rather than the surgery and the medication. I remember that night where I got the information. I was on my knees looking at our 1.5-year-old in his eyes and thinking to myself, how could I not be here to watch this kid grow up? You know, how could I not be here to watch our second kid be born? How could Shush be here by herself to raise this family? And I just didn't want that to happen. And so I was going to find a way to do whatever I could to make myself healthier and be here as long as possible, because that's what I wanted to do. And when I turned to her and I said, I'm no longer eating anything that comes from an animal, she laughed at me. You know,
I didn't know what he was talking about. I'm like, who doesn't eat things that come from animals?
Right.
Like vegetarians. I wasn't even familiar with the word vegan. I thought it was I guess it is some kind of vegetarian, right? I was so not familiar with it. I was a new mom. I spent like the first 10 years of our relationship pretending not to cook so that I never had to. And, you know, now I have a family and I'm starting to cook, and we had just gone gluten-free like 6 months or a year before, because Russell was so sick from all his eczema, and it turned out that he was allergic to gluten. And Adam was intolerant. So we'd just gone gluten-free. So not only was I learning to cook and then learning to like restructure everything gluten-free, now all of a sudden I could only cook vegetables. It was really overwhelming. And what I didn't know at the time is that I was experiencing a lot of anxiety and depression and ended up having PTSD from that whole experience, but I wasn't showing signs of it that were recognizable to us at that time.
So here's the cool part. This went on for about a year. And during that year, I had to go back to the hospital for 3-month checkups of the tumor to make sure that it's not growing, because I never removed it. They wanted to just monitor it. So every 3 months, I'd go for a checkup. After a year of eating plant-based, the radiologist turns to me and he says, what's going on here? It looks like your tumor is shrinking a little bit. This is not normal. And so they changed me from a 3-month checkup to a 6-month, and eventually to a year, and then actually 2 years. And they told me they fired me. They never wanted to see me again. And a year after I went plant-based, I went back to that ophthalmologist, and she took another retinal exam. And the pictures, I wish I could show it to you now, but the pictures of the retina from the year before and the year after eating plants, the arteries are bright red and wide, and it's so much clearer. And she was also shocked. So when you get those results and you see the changes that are happening in your body from the things that you're doing, I mean, all I really did was stop eating animal products. I mean, I changed my lifestyle a little bit in the fact that I switched over from team sports to triathlons. So that was a bit of a lifestyle change, but I think most of it had to do with the food I was putting in my body that was healing me. And only then you started, Shush, to really, that's what really brought you onto this page with me.
Yeah. The other thing that you changed is I think when you were doing some of your long distance training, you were meditating during that training also. But although meditation does help with, curing the body, you can't meditate away a tumor completely, right? There has to be other things that go along with it. But it's not that I wasn't supportive of him. And I want to make that clear.
No,
I think that I was really supportive of Adam, but I just didn't get it. I didn't, I had seen Forks Over Knives and fallen asleep during the second half a couple of times. And, now I've watched it like 18 times and it's good. I could probably like repeat it verbatim. But, I was supportive and I trusted him and I trusted his gut the same way when he said he didn't want to just go and do surgery. I remember just, it was his body. I had to go with his feelings. And if I was really opposed to it, I would have said so, but it felt right to me also to wait to find out more information. It wasn't strep throat. Okay, take this antibiotics just in case it's strep throat. It's
Right.
a lot heavy dutier than antibiotics. But I just didn't get it. But then when he came home with that information, the tumor had shrunk and his heart disease went away. And I kind of was able to take a deep breath out for once, because even though they had said, it wasn't malignant, even though they had said, he doesn't have VHL, he's not a carrier of it either, and our children are safe and in the clear, I still had my backup, and I was still really, really nervous and anxious that something was going to happen. So seeing that proof, that's not placebo. That's not having more energy because you're eating better. That's, and not that sometimes you do have more energy, of course, because there are actual factors that take place within the body, but you could actually see it. It's not like, oh, well, maybe it's placebo. That was for real, man. Like
it was evidence.
Yeah. And there was nothing, there was no turning back for me at that point. I had spent about 6 months vegetarian with, about an egg sandwich a week, a piece of pizza a week, and some cheese a week. And that was usually on Fridays and Saturdays. So I spent the rest of the week pretty much, plant-based, whole food plant-based almost. And then it was just automatic. It was like May something. And I was like, done.
Yeah, that's so cool. And and like Shoshana, I can't imagine like the stress that you had to deal with. Cause I'm just thinking like when I was pregnant, just like you were saying, just there's so many hormone changes. And even like after you have a baby, like a lot of those hormone changes stay with you. Like that kind of thing changes. And like, I'm thinking like I have a 2-year-old right now and I still feel like those changes. And then you're pregnant again. And then you have like that added stress on. So like, I totally could understand everything that you were saying, you were having a lot of like post-traumatic stress. And it's like, I can't imagine what you were going through at that level, especially since like, you're pregnant, you're being told to stay like as relaxed as you can for the baby, but it's like, that's impossible at that point.
Yeah, it totally was impossible. And my obstetrician was really great. I mean, the first time it was like in and out and in and out. And I was like, I need more attention. And I never got it. But the second time he really did give me a lot of attention. I think that he knew that mentally I needed it. My son was 5 weeks early. So
you have a second son?
No, I don't have a second son. My first child was 5 weeks early. So, that was stressful for me. So then I didn't know what to expect with Jordan. I didn't know if I was going to carry her full term or less. The 5 weeks ended up just fine for him. Not a big deal. He was, a tiny little baby, but not that tiny. And you wouldn't know the difference today. But for her, I didn't know, is she going to come even earlier than that? So we already have all these like, one kid is great and fun, but like, oh my God, how are we going to handle 2 kids? How am I going to handle 2? How am I going to raise 2 kids on my own is just what kept going through my head. And in hindsight, and based on what I do with my clients today, that was not the best way of thinking. I really needed to reframe all my thoughts. I really need to think in a more positive light. I needed to do a lot of journaling and meditation around it, but I didn't. I got very caught up in the what if. And it wasn't until my daughter was about a year and a bit that we realized that I was experiencing PTSD. And what we found out later is that it's from that actual event that happened with Adam. I would kick and scream like a 2-year-old on my bed because I just have a tantrum because I just thought that my whole world was ending.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine, any of that. It's just, and I think that's an important thing to address because it is a real thing and it is like super serious and it needs to be addressed. So like, I'm glad that you are able to help people that may be going through, obviously not your exact situation, but similar ones where, moms or families are dealing with a lot of stress with lifestyle related and things like that. So I think it's cool that you can bring that experience to really help bring the wisdom to, like you were saying, like instead of being more reactive with it, you can, focus on the positive, the things like the journaling, meditation, things like that, just to help keep your mind right, even though it is a stressful situation. Like there's no way around that, but there's just different ways to go about it. So I think it's really cool that you can, bring that to the people that you guys work with.
Yeah, and not everything is going to work for the same person, right? But I definitely have a lot of tools in my tool belt from personal use, and I have some, tools in my tool belt just that didn't work for me, and that can totally work for somebody else.
How did switching whenever Adam started seeing his positive changes, you went all in. Like, how did that help you on like the anxiety levels?
So for me, it helped in a lot of ways. First of all, the baby weight that had stuck with me for a year and a half was finally gone. And that was really good for my self-esteem and my confidence because my body, like we said, I'd always worked out. I'd always been very fit. So I never quite went back to what I was before. I don't think any of us do. Our hips kind of move in a way that never go back. But, I did lose some weight that I was holding on to that was probably very stress related. So that was good for me. But in terms of my day-to-day life, my head was a lot clearer when I eat well. And even if once I started eating completely plant-based, even when I'm eating very well, my head's more clear. I have more energy. I'm able to call on my tools in my tool belt even more. But when I'm not eating well, or when I was still eating animal products, or when I eat, too much dairy-free Ben and Jerry's or what have you, I kind of spiral and, I'm more irritable. I'm not sleeping as well. I might have, some extra anxiety. I might snap at somebody in the house. I might not want to work out because I don't feel like it. And then my happy hormones don't come out because I'm not working out, right?
Right.
So it's very cyclical. So eating well for me is huge. It's really big.
I don't think people think about that enough. It's like, if somebody's maybe that's listening, or like if you're not really buying the whole like meditation or the whole journaling or even plant-based, but like you have to think, if you wake up and you ate healthy that night before and you had a healthy breakfast and you're feeling really good about it, or, you had a good workout in, and maybe you sat down and like took time for yourself and did like meditation or breathing exercises or something like that, like you're going to be more calm and you're going to have more composure. And like, let's say you have a toddler coming at you like a crazy person, right? And, if you have that calmness to start your day, you're going to respond to that completely different as if you woke up kind of like a little bit frazzled, you ate a lot of sugar, like you said, you'd be a little bit more irritated. And like, that's going to affect how you respond to, to your kids and to your family. And then like over time, all of that builds up, and it really plays such an important role. And I think people need to think of it like that. Not just like, oh, meditate, it'll be better, I'll do that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like a domino effect.
Totally agree. And people can do a very simple test. They could just eat something and be mindful of it. Pay attention to how their body feels, how their mind feels after they eat it, because the food is so powerful. We've learned that what you put in your body is either going to heal you or harm you. It's going to make the biggest difference in one way or the other. And if you pay attention to the food that you consume, and you realize and figure out and you find the foods that make you feel good and you keep eating those, there's no end to how you're going to feel. Your feeling is going to be incredible, and you're going to keep feeling better and better because you're going to want to eat better and better. It just 100%. Makes a huge difference, and it gets you into such a positive cycle.
Definitely. And for you, Adam, I mean, it definitely did that. I mean, you started getting into like triathlons and training for that. So how has that been? Just that whole process with I'm sure that's changed a lot with your health, just training in that way, and with your energy level. So like, and how has it affected you like athletically?
It's been incredible. I mean, I stopped playing hockey. I used to play hockey late at night, and I used to be miserable the next day because I was so tired. So one of the changes I decided was no more hockey. I was going to get into triathlon, but that meant now I have to start my day earlier, because in order for me to get my workouts in, I need to start before I go to work, because I always said that I wanted to be home, if I can be, to spend time with my kids before they have to go to bed. So my workouts were always something I had to do in the morning. And I loved it. Like, I love it still. I'm not doing triathlons right now, but I'm still running very long distances. And when I started the triathlon training, I realized that I didn't really know how to swim. And I had never learned as a kid how to swim because that wasn't a team sport.
He could swim to save his life. Like he could swim from like the dock to the beach and stuff.
Right.
But
And I could scuba dive, but
Yeah.
that's not really swimming. Right.
Like the form and everything like that you would really need.
No, I just thought I could get in the pool and I'll be okay. You know, I'm an athlete. I can do it. But it was totally something new. And I had to teach myself how to do it. And that's what I did. And I just started to really like spending time with myself. I realized that I was an okay guy to hang out with.
That's awesome. No, I love it. And I love, I mean, you guys have such unique stories, but like they obviously mesh together as, you know, a family. And like, I love how you're using all of that just to, you know, put it out there in the world. And like, you know, what made you guys want to start a podcast to kind of share what you're learning and your experiences?
I think that we decided that it was really important that other families who were younger than us and more naive than us at this point got more information so that they can change their life, so that their children can grow up better than we have, and so that nobody else really has to go through that pain and suffering that we went through for no reason. Because 80% of the diseases right now in North America are lifestyle related. They're food related, they're lifestyle related, they're stress related, and they're unnecessary. And if we just let more people know and made more people make more changes, then other people wouldn't have to go through, because it didn't just affect the four of us, right? Like it affected our parents, it affected our siblings, it affected our colleagues, it affected our friends. And it was so devastating. And it didn't just affect Adam. I had to take time off work. My kids barely had a mother for, was it weeks or months? I can't even tell you. I was eating, pretending to eat in front of my kids so that they would see me eat, and going back upstairs and closing the door and going back in the dark and going to bed at night. Like I was not functioning as a human being. I was not taking my role as a parent, and that was killing me. So Adam really wanted to start this podcast to let more people know all of what we've just told you about, but I wasn't ready.
I wanted to share the story and the information and the impact that it had on my family and how it could impact everybody else. But at the same time, selfishly, I wanted to learn from as many people as possible. And it's just such a great opportunity to get incredible people to come on our show, and it's like a one-on-one private lesson with them.
Right.
And then it gets shared out with everybody. So there's so many benefits to it. And I think it's been a lot of fun. It also it gave us the time, the two of us, to spend together away from the kids for a bit. You know, this was our like date time almost.
I can't remember if it was a year or if it was 6 months, but Adam had this idea and I just couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle being back at work, working full time, taking care of the kids, you know, being a wife, a mother, trying to be a woman at the same time. I didn't have time for it in my brain. And then all of a sudden I was ready.
Yeah.
So it happened. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, you guys have had obviously a lot of episodes, a lot of amazing guests. What have been some of the biggest takeaways that you guys have taken just from, I know that's a very, very hard question to answer because there's so many, and like, but if you is there like any specific takeaways that just come to mind right away that you guys have taken away?
Well, interviewing Dr. Esselstyn was a lot of fun because I had met him down at his weekend home, I think a week before. And he said, yeah, no problem. Give me a call. I'm like, hey, if you send me your email address, I'll like send you an email. He said, no, just give me a call. And I called him and he's like, okay, so you want to do it now? And I'm like, oh, well, I want to schedule a time to do it. I'm not like ready to do it this minute. But I think the biggest takeaway from that is just that if I'm willing to just be there and help people the same way that he's willing to be there and help people, that we're going to make that much more change. And being able, you know, I'm very blessed and happy and excited to, you know, go to different conferences, speak at different conferences, you know, on a stage beside, you know, Dr. Esselstyn and Dr. Greger, and get to meet some of these amazing, amazing minds and personally invite them to come on the show. I mean, if I can provide that for other people too, on whatever level it is, not comparing myself to them at all, but on whatever level, then I just know that we're all working together to combat a really serious dilemma. Yeah,
definitely. Just coming from that place of love, and I know you guys have probably seen it too, just like how like that, you know, the people that there's so many people in the plant-based community that just have so much love and like you said, just genuinely want to help. I just think it's amazing. And what about you, Adam?
There's so many people that we've spoken to that have so many different stories. And I think one thing that really is a take home for me is that we're all so very different, but there's so much similarity between us. And if we could find those similarities, this planet would be a better place. And if we can consume the foods that are going to heal us and our planet, this is going to be a better place. And being able to network with all these people and share those stories has been an incredible, I guess, 3 years now doing the podcast, getting past 250 episodes. Like it's mind-boggling how that happened. It's gone so fast. There's been so much going on, but it's been amazing. And I guess the other thing that I learned is that I look physically healthy, and there's so many people out there that look physically healthy on the outside, but we don't know what we look like on the inside if we don't get checked. And we all think we're invincible until something happens. And one of the reasons we're doing the show and trying to help people is so that we could try to get more people to take care of themselves before they have to go through that crisis, before they have to go through that family tragedy, whether it's themselves or somebody they love. And it's not an easy thing to do.
I think that's one of the biggest things that's unique about our story is that you do hear a lot of stories about people who lost a ton, who had diabetes, it went away, all of these diseases that went away. But there were so many symptoms and there were so many signs that the fact that they were ill was right there in front of your eyes. But for Adam, it wasn't. So for Adam, the message is bigger to, not just people who are plus size, not just people who, whose sugars are out of control. It's a story for everybody. And for me, what I can offer to other people is that I spent my whole life very sick. I had ear infections from the time that probably 2 weeks old. I was on medication at least once a month throughout my whole entire life for ear infections, sinus infections, strep throat. I was 22 years old or 23 years old, and I was still getting perforated eardrums. And I had acne my whole life. My gut was ruined from all of these antibiotics that I was on, but I didn't see there ever being a solution to keeping it from coming. I only saw the solution as take antibiotics and get better. I never realized that there would be something that I can do to give me the power to actually stop these things from happening. So when I did get on board with Adam, the strep throat 5 times a year went to strep throat once or twice a year for the next couple of years. And I'm not going to tell you the last time I was on antibiotics for that now because I don't want to jinx myself. But, but had I known that a long time ago, had I known that as a kid, all those days of school I missed, all the socializing I missed, maybe I wasn't the best basketball player I could have been. What kind of gut issues did I have? All the acne that I had that, kept me home on a Saturday night instead of going out with my friends because I was too embarrassed. Could all of that have been, could all of that have not happened had I just understood the effects of dairy products and other animal products on my system and just eating right in general, because I grew up with a ton of sugar.
Yeah. I can't remember exactly how you worded it, but, you just thought that was the norm and there was nothing you could do about it because it's just pushed as the norm, right? It's normal to get sick and go take an antibiotic, or it's normal to have acne as a teenager, right? But it's but what's really causing that? So 100% agree. I think that's super important to point out. And you guys had to go through so much so quick. Did your level of just gratitude for just the health and just overall life, did it just go from 0 to 1 million? Because you had to go through so much so quick. Do you guys feel like you're more just full of gratitude now? Do you know what I mean?
Definitely full of gratitude now. And we practice that regularly, which is not something that I ever did before.
I don't think I knew what gratitude was before.
Yeah. I was even hard to say thank you and please, growing up. That was not something that I did. The word love didn't even exist in my vocabulary. Like
Well, with
someone
me,
would,
it did.
someone would say, I love you. Like I would just be,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, it's always interesting when you hear somebody that's maybe had like a near death experience, or somebody that has had like a disease that's almost taken their life. Almost everybody will be like, it's the best thing that's ever happened. Like, I'm so thankful for that. And I think that's really amazing. And like, is that where you guys are at as well?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it depends which day you get me on, because I know that had that not happened, we wouldn't be sitting here right now having this podcast with you. Had that not happened, I'd still be in my teaching job. Had that not happened, I wouldn't have gone through all of the hell that we went through. And now I'm able to help other people. I'm able to help other people through it. I'm able to help other people not get to that point. I'm able to help other people and prevent it to begin with. So all of that is really amazing. But it was painful and it was hard, but at the same time, I'm embracing it, and it is what it is.
I think that's what we have to do. I mean,
Right.
I wouldn't want to change anything now that that we're through it. But at the time, it was not something I wanted at all. Like, who would? Right. But now looking back, I wouldn't take it away, because this is where we're at, and I'm still here. Right. And I'm grateful for that every day. And the time that I have to spend with my family is precious. And I try to maximize it as much as possible and share my experiences with everybody around me and share them on the podcast. And I try to remind people that we could do anything we choose to do. It's just a matter of making that choice, making that change, and just going for it, because there is no limit to what we're capable of accomplishing. And I remind myself that every morning when I wake up, and I share that message with everybody that I come into contact with.
Definitely. And I mean, and obviously you guys are making a huge impact, and I know they're changing so many lives. So, I'm excited for, the work that you guys are doing. And like, I mean, obviously you guys have the podcast, and then you guys do like health coaching as well. Like, is there anything that you guys are working on for the future that you just want to like put out there and share with people, or just continue to put out podcasts and content and just continue to teach people as much as possible?
I think right now we're really trying to get as much people learning as possible from the podcast. Of course, subscribers and all of that helps, because it gives us more leverage to get bigger and better guests. So we're really excited for a lot of the guests that we have coming up and what the Plant Trainers podcast is going to bring in the next few years. We're growing our Instagram too, to try to help people on a different platform as well, because long form podcast or 45-minute podcast is not for everybody, right? Some people need short and sweet. And we've always got certain programs going on at different times of the year. So on top of our one-on-one, sometimes we'll have picky eater programs for children. We've written a book on food literacy, to get a puzzle book to get kids more interested in food. We have a couple of other things up our sleeve, but basically, at planttrainers.com, you could kind of take a sneak peek and see what we're all up to there.
Awesome. And you talked about Instagram. What was your Instagram name? That way people can go and follow you. And you're also on Facebook, right?
Yes. So we're at Plant Trainers, PLANTTRAINERS on Instagram. And we're Plant Trainers Podcast on Facebook as well. So if they just look up Plant Trainers, you'll find us there as well. And we are behind our own Facebook accounts as well. So if anybody needs to reach out for any particular reason, we'll be the ones reading those messages too, so they could find us, Adam or Shoshana Chaim, on Facebook as well.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll put all of those in the show notes. That way people can just go click and give you guys an ad. And yeah, guys, definitely go subscribe to their podcast and write a review, because like she said, that helps so much, just getting both of those, the ad and the review in, just for increased listeners and the guests they do get on. So just go do that. And guys, just closing question that I ask every guest, and you guys could either answer together or separately. But if you guys just had one piece of advice for the audience, maybe it's been something that's been your biggest takeaway through your journey so far, but if you just had one piece of advice to give, what would it be?
Well, I'll just say it again, what I said before, I think, and it's that you could do anything you choose to do. You just got to make that choice. It's that simple.
Awesome.
And for me, it's that you might have all kinds of responsibilities and people that you're accountable to. But at the end of the day, you've got to take care of yourself first, because if you're not in your right mind and in your right physical space to be able to do that, then you're not going to be of any use to anybody else.
Awesome. Now, both of those are perfect, guys. And just thank you so much for taking time to come on. And I love what you guys are doing. Excited just to share your work with everybody that I can. And just thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for listening to this edition of the Plant Trainers Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or any other podcast listening platforms. We appreciate the feedback we receive from you. Every time we get a 5-star rating or review on iTunes from one of our fans, it ensures other people will find us too. Thanks to our patrons. To become a patron, visit www.patreon.com/planttrainers. Even supporting us with $1 really makes a difference. Connect and follow us on Instagram and Twitter @PlantTrainers. Like Plant Trainers on Facebook, join our newsletter, and check out our website at www.planttrainers.com for awesome plant-based recipes and a list of our services. Email your questions to info@planttrainers.com so we can answer them on our upcoming Facebook Lives. We hope we've inspired you today. Join us again next time, and have a healthy day.